Orders of the day. Government House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Government Order G153, please.
Order G153, resuming the debate adjourned on March 5th, 2014, on the motion for second reading of Bill 153, an act to amend the Electricity Act 1998 with respect to a World Trade Organization decision.
The debate. The member from Nepean Carleton.
Thank you very much, Speaker. It is a pleasure to rise once again to conclude my hour leadoff on G153, the government motion to bring Ontario into compliance from failing to adhere to World Trade Organization rules, thereby breaking international law. For the first time in Canadian history that a province has done that to the federal government. Speaker, I'll take some of my time actually to discuss some of the implications of the Green Energy Act and why we won't be supporting this legislation, but why we will be encouraging the government and the third party to do exactly what we are doing, which is conclude debate after the three lead-offs in order for this bill to have speedy passage in order to ensure that Canada is in compliance. That said, I want to make it very clear that the Ontario Progressive Conservative Caucus, under the leadership of our leader Tim Hudak, has opposed the Green Energy Act since its inception, and we will continue to do that. That is why we cannot in good conscience support this modification to the Green Energy Act. In fact, we believe, as Progressive Conservatives, the best way to comply with international law is actually to end the Green Energy Act and the FIT program once and for all. And we have been very vocal on this since 2009, and we have brought many of those concerns to the floor of this Legislative Assembly. And if you look back to my speech a week ago in the chamber near this same time, you'll see many of the same arguments that I made then, I'll make again today. We have been very reserved or very, I guess, opposed, I should say, not even reserved. And I see my colleague from Sudbury having quite a giggle over there that I might be reserved at any given time in this Assembly, Speaker. But I can assure you that our caucus has been steadfast in our opposition, and let me tell you why. A couple of weeks ago in question period, the Minister of Energy stood up and said that the Green Energy Act, the FIT program itself for these wind turbine developments that are destroying rural Ontario, cost $20 billion. On the same moment that he said that, I checked the IESO and wanted to see what the given supply was for that $20 billion investment from this provincial government. 1.1% of our power supply at that given moment was from wind power. That means we have spent $20 billion for 1.1% of our power supply in the province. As my colleague from Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke notes, it is sometimes less. Now, the government, in all of its glory and intelligence, has decided that that is not enough. We're going to have to invest more and build more of these wind turbine developments for effectively unreliable and unaffordable power. That is driving up the rates in this province. In fact, at the last rate increase by the OEB last November, when they decided to increase rates by 4%, they cited the fact that it was the cost of the Green Energy Act that people were paying for. We also notice for many business owners across Ontario, people are seeing something we call the black box, the global adjustment. That global adjustment is effectively where all the sins, all the mistakes by this Liberal government have been added and accumulated onto people's bills. And it is hurting our employers across this province. It's hurting effectively everybody. It has now become a pattern for this government just to hide everything under the rug in the energy bills of this province, but that is hurting the people who we represent. We have said very distinctly in this Assembly that not only should that FIT program be ended, and not only should those subsidies stop, but if any future communities want a wind turbine development, which by now 80 municipalities in this province have said they are not a willing host, but say there was, we have said very clearly as Progressive Conservatives, the only way that they could move forward with a wind turbine development is if the municipality and those local decision makers say so.
And we need it.
Presently, and we understand this, Speaker, presently, this Liberal government will override any municipal decisions and put a wind turbine or solar development anywhere that it is not wanted. We have vast concerns with that, and that's why we have said not only will we end the FIT program, but we will also restore locally based decision making. We also have a concern, and I want to talk about some areas like the Oak Ridges Moraine and other places like Amherst Island, which are, I think, environmentally sensitive areas that are subject to these wind turbines. We have been very clear as Ontario Progressive Conservatives on those environmentally sensitive lands. There should be no development whatsoever of these invasive wind turbines. And I want to be very clear to anyone who is watching from home when I say places like Ostrander Point, Amherst Island, and when I talk about Oak Ridges Moraine, the Ontario Progressive Conservative Caucus opposes wind turbine developments on those environmentally sensitive lands. In fact, that is why we have been calling for a moratorium on any future wind turbine developments until the appropriate scientific, environmental, and health effect studies have been completed. And it has been the Ontario Progressive Conservative Caucus, under the steadfast leadership of Tim Hudak, who has been traveling the province saying we need to have those health and scientific and environmental impact studies completed. And that is why we are proud that the Government of Canada listened to our caucus and to other Conservative members of Parliament in calling for health studies that are now being done. We were instrumental in calling for the Waterloo Institute of Sustainable Energy to put forward their studies as well, which is now ongoing, and in their interim report was not very favourable to the government's plan. In fact, the government is ignoring their plan that they are paying for. So, Speaker, let's recap where I am. We're ending the FIT program as Progressive Conservatives. We will restore locally based decision making. We will hold a moratorium until health and environmental impacts are completed. We are the only party in this Assembly, and we will be the only party in the next election that will be standing up for those in rural Ontario who are opposed to these invasive wind turbines and the Green Energy Act. We have been doing this since 2009, and we will continue to do it. It is unaffordable. You cannot continue to pay $20 billion for 1.1% of Ontario's energy. You add that to the cost of the cancelled gas plants in Mississauga and Oakville, that is $1.1 billion added to the $20 billion. You add the fact that this green energy program is causing us to have an oversupply. When that happens, we lose a lot more money because we have to subsidize other jurisdictions to take our power. That costs another $1 billion. Our energy rates in this province and our bills across this province are becoming so high that seniors are telling us that their hydro bills are higher than their old age security check. We have businesses across Ontario telling us that they're either going to have to shut down or move to the United States or Quebec or to Manitoba. That is the real impact of the Green Energy Act. So if that's not bad enough, let me raise two other very significant points. The first is the Auditor General here in the province of Ontario reviewed the Green Energy Act and the math behind what Mr. McGuinty and now what Ms. Kathleen Wynne have supported. The Auditor General of Ontario has said that for every job the Green Energy Act creates, we lose 4. For a province that has lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs, we are losing hundreds of jobs by the week. That is significant. That tells me that if you don't believe Wind Concerns Ontario, if you don't believe the Association of Major Power Producers of Ontario, if you don't believe the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, at least believe the Auditor General of Ontario, who has no vested interest other than good governance, accountability, and transparency of government. So for a province that has been so linked with its economy and its energy policy, I can say to you, Speaker, with my full confidence that the Green Energy Act is destroying jobs in our province. It is destroying rural Ontario. It is pitting neighbours and family members against one another. And if that is not bad enough, here is my next point. We are now here today debating a change to the Electricity Act of 1998. And we are doing so because this Green Energy Act, which subsidizes power to $20 billion for 1.1% of energy, which has stripped locally based decision-making from people, which has unknown health and environmental impacts, which is costing us jobs. For every one is created, we're losing 4. The fifth problem with this, and this is the final nail in the Green Energy Act coffin, it has broken international law. For the first time in Canadian history, a provincial policy has brought Canada into non-compliance with the World Trade Organization. And the worst part of that is this Liberal government knew since 2010, 4 years ago, that they were breaking the law. I can only conclude they were either incompetent or they were out to embarrass a federal government that is not of their own political stripe. So here we are today. It is, according to my watch with the date on it, the 19th of March. They have known for 4 years that they were in non-compliance, and we have 5 days now to meet the deadline for compliance, March 24th, and we have that time in order to pass this through first reading, go through second reading, and have third reading. But the general malaise by the Liberal government across the way is compromising our ability to comply. So let me talk a little bit about what those repercussions will be, and this is important for anybody listening at home. Breaking international law is a very big deal because there could be retaliation attached to that breaking of the law. What could we be retaliated with? Well, let me think. When Japan and the European Union decided to take us to court over this at the World Trade Organization, with China and the United States being third-party interveners, this is what could happen. A trade war could be launched on Ontario for some of our products, such as our beef, such as our cars, our automobiles, or it could be our Niagara wine. We could be into a full-fledged trade war. Now, don't take my word for it. Take the words of the international trade lawyers who I've consulted with, like Cindy Todgham-Cherniak and John Johnson. These are very respected names in the international trade world. They are respected lawyers here in the City of Toronto, and they have counseled me, as well as other members of the Progressive Conservative Caucus, on the pitfalls of not meeting compliance by March 24th. So as I stated before, I will be the only speaker on behalf of the Ontario Progressive Conservatives. We believe that the best way to deal with the compliance is to abolish the Green Energy Act in its entirety. However, recognizing that this Liberal government has put our nation in a very awkward position of almost starting an international trade war, we are going to allow the New Democrats and the Liberals to do what they do best, which is vote together and to prop one another up and to enjoy the coalition that they have had for the past number of years. But I am going to maintain, as my Progressive Conservative colleagues have since the day this Green Energy Act was brought in, that it is not the right plan for the province of Ontario. The right plan for the province of Ontario is to rip up the Green Energy Act. It is to end the Green Energy Act. It is to stop the FIT program, end the subsidies. It is to provide locally based decision-making. It is to have a moratorium until health and environmental impacts have been studied. It is to focus our energy policy once again on economic policy, and it is to ensure that we are not breaking any environmental or international or health laws. That is the desire of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Caucus. And when you have the highest industrial hydro rates in North America, you have to understand that the key and the centerpiece of their energy policy has failed, and that is this Green Energy Act. So, Speaker, I've had the opportunity on many times to address this Assembly on this particular Green Energy Act. In fact, I would be remiss not to once again provide a great deal of credit in this Assembly to my seatmate from Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke, who was the energy critic at the time it was first introduced. I'd also like to give credit to my colleague, Vic Fideli, who was the critic for the energy file previous to me, who wrote our white paper on affordable energy. He was critical on where we are going to go in the future. And of course, we have to talk about Miss Green Energy herself, the person who came to this assembly on day one fighting wind turbines in her community of Huron-Bruce, Lisa Thompson. She has been a vocal advocate for the people across this province, not just in her riding, who are tired of the Green Energy Act. She comes here with a sense of purpose. She understands what their concerns are. She understands their plight. In fact, it was Lisa Thompson who, a year ago, almost this month, brought to this assembly the fact that this Liberal government was breaching and breaking international law. She told them a year ago they needed to comply. What took them so long, Speaker? What took them 11.5 months? Why did they drag their feet? Why are they costing Ontarians more money? Why are they trying to send more jobs out of this province? Why are they trying to embarrass the federal government? Lisa Thompson, John Yakabuski, Vic Fideli, Tim Hudak, the rest of us, we want to know why. We want to understand from this Liberal government why their rigid ideology could plunge our province into an international trade war and cost us 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Why would they put hydro rates in this province to a point where people can't afford to pay their bills? Why would they do this, Speaker? These are the questions that the Ontario Progressive Conservative Caucus has, and we believe the only way to answer any of those questions is to rip up the Green Energy Act that was brought in by George Smitherman once and for all. And I'm proud that my leader, Tim Hudak, has travelled this province, has told business leaders, has told seniors, has told farmers, has told everybody who will listen that the only option in the next election to restore locally based decision-making, bring back sound economic-based policy for energy that will ensure that our farmland remains agricultural is Tim Hudak. I am proud to be on that team, Speaker, because I have in my own community the threat of a wind turbine development in North Gore. And I want to once again speak to the people I represent through Jane Wilson, the chair of the North Gore Wind Action Committee. I want them to know back home, I am going to continue to fight for you. I am going to continue to stand up and oppose this Green Energy Act, and I am going to continue to stand up in the Ontario Legislature to fight that wind turbine development in North Gore. We're going to continue to do it, Speaker, and we're going to continue to use every available opportunity for debate to expose the problems with the Green Energy Act. We're going to continue to talk about that embarrassing $20 billion number for 1.1% of our energy supply. We're going to continue to talk about the Auditor General's report that says for every job they create, they lose 4 more as a result of the Green Energy Act and its high prices. We're going to continue to talk about those 80 municipalities across this wonderful province of ours who are opposed to wind turbine developments, who don't want them and want their local say restored. And we're going to continue to remind this Assembly that Health Canada and the Waterloo Institute of Sustainable Energy are looking at this Green Energy Act and they are talking about its implications. They are studying its ramifications, and they will report. These are the real challenges with the Green Energy Act, and as I've stated on a number of occasions, the final nail in this Green Energy Act is that we are non-compliant with international trade law. Speaker, I understand that from time to time people in this Assembly have differences of opinion. But the facts in opposing the Green Energy Act more than speak for themselves. And again, I suggest to you this, humbly, it is not just the Ontario Progressive Conservative Caucus who is saying this. It's effectively every rural municipality in this province. It's effectively every person who's lost their job because their company can't afford the high energy prices. It is effectively every senior whose old age security check is smaller than their hydro bill. We are speaking on behalf of those people. I feel very confidently that we have made our case, so I will repeat this for the third and final time. We believe the best way to become compliant with the international trade law is to rip up the Green Energy Act. That said, we will not stand in the way of this province becoming compliant, because after all, we do not want to embarrass our federal government as this government has just done, and we do not want to plunge our province into an international trade war in which we will cost further jobs and more hardship on the wonderful people of this province. So I submit to you, to the Liberals, do the right thing, rip up the Green Energy Act, and if you're not prepared to do that, get this done right away. Thank you very much.